Hi, I'm Rachel, and welcome to Rise and Rediscover, a podcast that focuses on motherhood and self-discovery. So, I am a mother of two adult children, ages 25 and 27, and about 3 years ago, I went through a very dark, lost time when they didn't really need me anymore. And I spent most of all of their life focusing on being a mom, and that's what I did. So when all those duties were gone, I didn't know who I was or what my purpose was anymore. So I went into a depression for a little while, and then I said, okay, it's time to discover who I am. I'm still young. I have a whole life ahead of me. What's my next chapter going to look like? So I became a mindset coach. During that time, I was able to work on me and learn tools that help me get through my everyday life. And, you know, that's what I'm hoping to bring to you guys. So I'm super excited to announce my first guest, who to me is the GOAT of all mothers. If you don't know what GOAT means, it means greatest of all time. My mom. My mom, who is the reason I am the mom that I am, because she sacrificed a lot for me and my siblings. I have two sisters and a brother, and I am so grateful that she gave us the childhood that she did. So we're going to get to hear from her, and she's going to be able to share with us the ups and downs, the highs and lows, the good and the bad. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my mom, Deb. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Rachel.
How you doing
I'm
today?
doing great. However, I would like to say I do not identify as the GOAT. I identify more as a Disney villain.
Oh, yes, that I know.
Ursula, the Queen of
Yeah.
Hearts. Was
Mhm. Right. But like I said, in my eyes, you are the GOAT as my mom. Who you think you are as a person, that's who you think you are. I think you're the best mom I couldn't have asked if I had to go into the universe and start over and say, and they asked me, all right, who do you want to be your mother? You can pick anybody in the world. I'd pick you again. So
I have no words.
you did something right.
You, I don't even
All
say
right,
that.
then. So I'm going to ask you some questions. First, when we were kids, you and Dad separated probably when I was about, I'm going to say maybe 7, around there.
Yeah, 8, 7, 8.
Yeah. So up until that point, he was there to help or whatever. But after that, you were a single mom with 4 kids who worked full time. So tell me a little bit about what that was like.
And being a working mom, as you well know, being a working mom, it's not that easy, but you get through it. I always envied stay-at-home moms. Wish I could have been one. Things would probably have been different, but you get through it. You have a network of people, friends, family, and you just carry on your day. And you get up, you do it, and you do it all over again following day.
Now, I remember when I was a kid, you worked overnight. So you would work 11 to 7.
Yes.
So you barely didn't sleep,
Right.
really. And how did you
That's where
handle
the
that?
Disney villain comes in, Ray. I would never want to do that again. That was not easy. But for my lifestyle, that was the best shift I could have worked. Go to work after my children were put to bed and get home when they were getting up for school. So you really didn't miss me because I was always there, but not there.
Right.
What?
That's what I remember. I remember you always being there. I remember you, when we go home from school, you were home. So as a working mom, as a child of a working mom, I didn't ever feel like we were alone a lot. I went to school with some latchkey kids, they call them, where they would go home after work and be alone till 6, 7 o'clock until their parents got home. And because you sacrificed your sleep, we never had to be those kids. And again, I know my Vavor and Vavu, your parents were a big help. They were a staple in our life. I know they were there a lot to help you. And we have a very special relationship with Favor, who is still alive and kicking at 96 years
Oh,
old
yeah.
with all of her
Yeah.
marbles. So let's hope we get her genes, right?
Yeah, she's my hero.
She is. She is. I'm very lucky that I come from a long line of very strong women. And I hope, and I believe that I've raised my daughter to be one also. Um, that's always been my thing. I remember you telling us, and let me know if this is too personal, but I remember you saying when Dad left, when you separated for good, you didn't know how to pay a bill because he did all of that. You didn't know, you relied on him for all of that, and now you had to learn it all. And I remember you teaching us as little girls, as you know you should have a partner. I think it'd be great to have someone to help out, but you need to know how to do it on your own. And that has sat with me since I was a kid. So I think it was great. It probably made me a little bit of a control freak when it came to all of that in my marriage. Um, but thank you for that, because I've never had to rely. I think if anything happened tomorrow, I'd be able to live like I'm living today without having to worry about where this is coming from or what do I do with this. So how was that adjustment for you?
That was a little difficult. Also, like you said, your father took care of all the finances and paid all the bills. So I knew nothing. I didn't know what the gas bill was, the electric bill. He did all that. So then when you do it on your own and you mess up a bit because you forget what to do and where to go, you do become a control freak once you get it down pat. And then you don't let
Mhm.
anyone take that from you. That's
Yep.
one disadvantage. You do
Yeah.
not let anyone take that from you. That is yours.
Right. Right. Now, we were lucky to be blessed with Papa,
Oh,
my stepfather, Paul. You got married. I think I was 12 when you married Paul. So, we had a father figure in the house. Um, Again, we saw our dad on weekends. He was present, but um, I want to say I was about 12. I think I was in seventh grade when you got married.
yeah, 12, 13, in that vicinity.
Hmm. And how did it feel having a little bit of, the pressure of doing it all alone? How did it feel for some of that to kind of be released? And I know I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but my older sister, Marisha, who's my oldest sister, is almost 5 years older than me. So she was the oldest. So there was a little bit of a gap between her and I. So as we grew, she took on the role of parenting us when you were at work or um, weren't home. She played a big role and still is. She's still our second mom. That's just her role. It always will be. Um, but how did you feel to be able to relieve her of that when Paul came along a little bit?
That was a difficult situation. Marisha didn't want to be relieved of that duty. She still was your mother, almost as much as I was your mother. I was always there for you kids so I could work and go work different shifts or whatever I needed to do. Um, but letting go of control wasn't easy. You still want to be in control. It's nice to have a partner, but
Mm-hmm.
it was difficult letting go of some things. It was
Mm-hmm.
a sketchy time.
We all have lived through sketchy times. That's for sure. All right, let's fast forward a little bit. And, none of us went away to college. We just didn't. We all went to vocational high school. We all got our trades right out of school pretty much. Marisha went to school for nursing, so she did go to college, but didn't move away. However, we did get married young. So, Marisha and I were out of the house by the time we were probably about 21. And how was that transition for you? I mean, I know you still had Adam and Renee at home and they were teenagers and wild and you were, I'm sure, busy trying to deal with them, but how did it feel? Let's just say the first time when Marisha moved out, because she's your first.
Like a piece of your heart is torn off. She was like my best friend and always there for me. And you miss them. And then you just have to carry on. You have to go on. And go down the line and start taking care of the rest of them, and then that one leaves, and then before you know it, the grandchildren start coming in, and they just fill up your heart.
Well, we know that is your favorite job in the
Oh,
world.
it is that.
I have a funny story. I remember when Ava, I believe, had a school project probably when she was 7 or 8, and she had to interview an elder in her family, and of course she chose you. And she asked you, what is your most prized possession? And you said, my grandchildren. And I said, wait a minute. I said, what about your children? And you looked at me and you said, Rachel, the minute you put Tucker in my arms, I said, Rachel who? And I was like, oh my goodness, but I cannot have picked a better grandmother for my children. So I totally understood that. And I know it didn't mean you didn't love us, but it just proved the love that you have for your grandchildren is
It's a
beyond.
It's just different. You have the time with them that you didn't have with your own. So you try to make it up with them, giving them all your undivided attention that you just could not do with your own children.
And how is it now? So now your grandchildren range in age from 29 to 8.
8, yeah.
And how is your
love them.
relationship with them?
I love each and every one of them. The love is incredible that you have for them. I don't see my adult grandchildren that often anymore. They are all so busy with their careers, their homes, and their own lives. But I live with 3 of mine, my 3 robust Alphiat boys. Because good, I love my life.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you ended up. Tell us a story about where you live now and how you ended up there.
Well, we raised ranch, which had many stairs. And Papa, well, my husband, Paul, had cardiac issues. He had open heart surgery, and he had a couple of heart attacks, and it was getting difficult for him to care for our home the way he liked to take care of the house. He was impeccable, doing everything that needed to be done by himself. So Renee, my youngest daughter, who I live with, kept telling me, you got to move in, you got to move in. And, we're really not old enough to move in, but stairs, so many stairs, and just couldn't keep up, cleaning the gutters, cleaning the roof. You'd go up on the roof and sweep the roof. Just couldn't do it anymore. So we finally gave in, and we redid her downstairs, and that's where we live now. It's we have our own private entrance in the back. It's a walkout. There are no stairs. Unless I want to go up to her house, then there's a lot of stairs. But we manage those. I'm very glad that I moved here.
And whose house was it originally?
Originally, this house belonged to my mother and father. It was a little tiny shack that my dad had built with his brother. A 1 bedroom, 1 living room, no bathroom, no water, and no electricity. And this is where we stayed on weekends. And then finally, my dad and mom, they'd always lived in tenements and had to rent, and the rent, they'd be asked to move if a family member wanted to move in. So finally, my dad had it, and he decided to build onto this house. So they raised it up, made it a raised ranch, and they lived here for 1 year before my dad died.
That was tough.
It was very tough.
Yeah. He was a special guy. Not an easy man, not an easy husband, but an amazing grandfather. He loved us very much.
He was an incredible grandfather. I used to say, where were you, Dad, back then? Why couldn't you be like that with us as you are with your grandchildren? We loved you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's missed for sure. But we had Vov, who,
oh yes,
that woman, she's a crazy lady.
Strong woman.
We love her. All right, so now you live with your 3 grandchildren, ages 15, 14, and 8. How's that?
It is wild. We never have a dull moment. They are the best boys. They are the best boys. They come down in the morning on weekends to say good morning to us. They come down before they go to bed at night to kiss us goodnight every single day. Occasionally, if they've got a friend over or, something's going on. But we follow them around to their sports things that they have, baseball, football, basketball, soccer, all their sports. And it's like we're just one unit, not separate people living in the same house.
And I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, before you moved there, you retired.
Yeah.
So you were retired maybe a couple of years before you moved to Renee's?
So probably, yes. Yep.
But I feel like watching you were lost a little bit then. Do you agree?
I was.
In your life? Yep. I feel like you were lonely. You were home a lot. I feel like moving in with Renee and the kids has enlivened you. I truly believe that. How do you feel? Is that how you feel, or am I just seeing it differently?
Lost. Because the minute I retired, I babysat full time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always busy. So finally, when the baby would go home, I'm tired, and that was the end of that. But working all those years, and you're so used to a routine and getting up and doing things. When you don't have that, you can sometimes, wonder, geez, what am I going to do? And you need something to occupy yourself. And moving here has occupied myself.
That's what I feel. That's how I feel. Excuse my dogs in the background. They like to make some noise sometimes, but it's going to happen. So you're just going to have to hear it. They'll stop in a minute. But okay. So another thing I want to ask you is, you raised us in the 80s. We were kids in the 80s, mostly 80s, early 90s. How do you see it different with the boys at the ages they are, like their childhood compared to our childhood? Because we are in a whole different time, and I'd love to hear your take on, and it's funny because we have like an interim. We have us, then we have mine and Marisha's kids who are now adults, and then now these boys. So I believe our kids were kind of that mid space, but now these boys compared to us, it's like we're living in a different world. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Things just are not the same. It's a cliche back in the day, but it's true. Like my kids, we lived in a neighborhood in the school district neighborhood. So everyone went to the same school down the street, across the street. You went together, you played together. Today, everyone lives so far apart, and they don't have that closeness with friends that come home from school, change your clothes, get outside and play. They do not have that. They come home from school and they're on their electronics with their friends. That's how their friendships are today, on social media with their friends, as opposed to being out in the backyard or at the schoolyard shooting hoops. So that's where that difference is. It's technology, it's social media. It's there's always peer pressure, but not like today.
No, much different.
Oh, 100% different.
Can you imagine? I mean, let's go back to probably the darkest time of one of the darkest times of my life was junior high, right?
Yeah.
I was bullied. It was horrific. It was painful. But can you even imagine if social media was involved in that?
No, it was horrible. Yeah.
I can't imagine it. I mean, I was bullied by phone calls or at school. Like if it these kids now that are bullied through social media, I feel for them because you can't get away from it today. Or at least once I got home, I felt safe. You could answer the phone and say, "Don't call here again." Right. These kids today, it's so hard as parents, I think, to, we see so many suicides of young kids in their teens, and it's heart-wrenching. And I can't even imagine what goes through their parents' mind because, 9 times out of 10, they probably had no idea that they were being bullied to the extent that they were. So opening communication is just something I think is so important today because there's so much that goes on. These kids are exposed to so much more than we ever were, which, people will say that the anxiety and the ADD and all this stuff is heightened right now, but they didn't have that when we were kids. We had some of it. It was looked at differently. But I think today, these kids just are exposed to so much that their brains are just on overload.
And at a young age.
Right. And, it's hard. And I get it as parents. It's hard for you to say no when their friend down the street or their friend that they're going to after school has the social media or whatever. They're going to have access to it somewhere. But I think communication and monitoring, as a mom, my kids with social media was just starting when Tucker and Ava were in high school. Snapchat, I think, came out when Tucker was graduating high school. So they didn't have a lot of that. It was just kind of starting, but I had their phones. I had their passwords. I had everything I needed to have. I took their phones at night in my room. They charged in my bathroom. Not because I didn't trust them, but because I was afraid for, what they were going to be exposed to if, somebody wasn't being kind. So not that I'm telling people they need to do that, but it definitely gave me some peace of mind knowing, my kids weren't angry. They weren't happy that I had all the passwords and I could check whatever I wanted to. And then they get to an age where you just don't want to check anymore. That one time you check and you say, okay, I'm done. then you're good. And then I would tell them, I'll trust you till you give me a reason not to. That's
Absolutely.
it. It's the best thing you can do, right? All right, Mom. Thank you very much. I think, is there any words of wisdom for the moms out there raising kids in this generation?
Recipe for it, I'll tell you. But you have to be open with them. You have to know what they're thinking. You have to let them know that you are here for them, that they should be able to speak to you however they need to, all the time. For any little thing that they might think is nothing, is something. And they need to feel loved. You need to just love them no matter what. Love is very.
Well, I have to say, we never had a lack of that growing up. We never had a lack of that. I felt love from the minute I knew what it was until right this second. So thank you for that. I know you do. All right, Mom. So thank you for being my first guest on this podcast.
Welcome.
I know you were stressed out about it.
Oh, I wish you all the best of luck.
I know you do. All right, Mom. I love you.
I love you too. And I'm very, very proud.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us on this first episode of Rise and Rediscover. I'm looking forward to being on this journey with you. We have so many topics we're going to cover, from addiction and motherhood to, divorce and single parenting and all the good stuff in between all of that. So stay tuned, and the next episode will be out before you know it. Thanks.